Well, did you sleep well last night? Your hotel accommodations great? If they're not great, see Haskell Williams. He's the guy. He's taking all complaints today, no matter what they are. He's the fixer. Don't you love that? I really appreciated the message last night. How about you folks? Just inspiring to know that wherever we go, where has God? God has been there before us. Amen? Now, for those that were down front, this is somebody's shoe. Now, for those down front, they know whose shoe this is. This is Shawn's shoe. See, he preaches up here with no shoes on, with his socks. And when I saw that, I was kind of reminded of a little story about a college student who was studying ornithology. And so they had studied and studied. It was time for the final exam, and he came into the classroom that morning, and on the wall were pictures of birds' legs and feet. And they had 45 minutes to identify each bird and species. And so the man looked at the pictures and said, "What's this?" And the teacher told him, and he said, "Listen, we can't do that. This is insane. I'm not going to take this test." And the teacher and him went back and forth a couple times, and finally the teacher said, "If you don't take the test, I'm going to give you an F." Young man sat down, and the teacher says, "Tell me your name." The young man sat down, took his shoes and socks off, and rolled up his pant leg and said, "You tell me." So I thought about that last night, and I thought about Shawn, and I could just see him with his socks off and his pant leg rolled up. You tell me. Quite a story. Today, are you ready for today? It's going to be a full day. We have lots of good messages this morning. I'm told it's more of a classroom setting this morning, but there's going to be seminars. And let me kind of just explain to you the process for the seminars once we break here. This room is divided off with two movable walls, and so there's three sections here, and behind that last wall is the Hispanic track. And so this section is A, the next one is B, the third one is C, and the Spanish track is in D. So when we break, we will move these walls out, and the sections are right here is going to be Rodley Ortiz. Is Rodley here? He's with the VOP team. They're not here. Anyway, Rodley Ortiz is going to be right here, and he's going to be talking about social media. And really, I think this is a missed opportunity for us, because this is something that is incredible, especially with our young people today and what they use. And so if you want to understand how to use social media, not just to go on and log on and, exchange some silly stuff on Facebook or Twitter, but to how to take advantage of that in a very Christ-centered gospel way to reach out and touch people that we could never touch. Come right here, because Rodley's got some real practical things that you can do. In the next room back in section B is going to be Alex Rodriguez. No, that's going to be Kurt Johnson, and Kurt Johnson from the BOP. He's going to be talking about how to start a Bible school. And so it's very, very important. And then in the section C, now that section C, these two sections will change with each breakout. Section C will remain the same, and that section is going to be how to turn your church into a house of prayer. All the other teaching that we have here has got to be predicated and grounded and rooted in prayer, because that's how God blesses our churches. How many of you want to see your churches to be a house of prayer? For all people. And so that section is so vital and important that probably some of you are going to want to go to that. And that section is going to be not repeated, but it's going to be sequential for 6 times. It's that thorough. So you might want to pop in there and see what that's like. But each session will be divided up. These sections will. And then you just follow the schedule on down. I think you can figure it out. So when we break from the next one, it'll be Awakening Spiritual Interest. Alan Parker from our Southern Adventist University. You can see where I am. See, I told a little bit of my age, didn't I? I shouldn't have done that. I should have kept that a secret. I know y'all thought I was about 45, didn't you? That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, there you go. And then here again, Transforming Your House in the House of Prayer in the Bible School, Section 2. So I'm just thrilled to be here with you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Glenn Altermat. I had the privilege of working with Haskell in the Office of Ministerial, and I'm the Evangelism Coordinator. And we're just happy to be here with you. And we pray that as our worship team leads us to the throne of grace, that God will bless you and that you'll experience Him in a way this weekend that is new and afresh, that His Spirit might fall upon us, that we might leave this place not only better equipped, but inspired and trusting that God has gone before us and we can walk in what God is already doing. So lead us. Thank you.
I'm assuming that's my cue. I'm surprised, Glenn, that you picked those shoes up. My doctor won't touch my feet without rubber gloves and a hazmat team. I just hope your health insurance premiums are all paid up. You might not be feeling so good later this week. People have wondered why I don't wear shoes, and I know some of you have been curious because you asked. Why do you not wear shoes? And I love the Adventist rumor mill. Stories in the Adventist church get a life of their own before too long. The number one assumption is that I kick my shoes off because once we've prayed I'm on holy ground and that it's a religious thing. And how I wish that were the case. If that were true, it would be kind of a noble thing. You know why I don't wear shoes? I hate shoes. I do. I have had surgeries on both Achilles tendons. They've been taken apart and sewn back together. I've got a torn whatchamacallit in this knee. I've had a back surgery, and there's something about that half inch of heel that drives me crazy. And my back hurts when I stand on that little bitty bit of heel. So I kicked my shoes off 20 years ago, and it feels incredible. Not only that, I get nervous when I speak, and so you take your shoes off, you feel like you're in your house. It just kind of settles you down. Next point. I can feel where the edge of the platform is. About 22 years ago, I was preaching and I had this Bible text halfway out of my mouth. I'm not kidding. Thy word is a lamp unto my... And I stepped off the edge of the platform. And I fell. People thought I'd done it on purpose. It wasn't on purpose at all. Now without my shoes on, I can feel where that edge is. Somebody in the front row noticed it last night. You kind of curl your toes around the edge, don't you? I said, that's right. Because I know that's how far I can go and no further. There is one more reason. I've got really odd feet. This one's an 11. You won't be able to see it from back there. This one's a 9.5. They're a size and a half difference. People say, why don't you just buy 2 pairs of shoes? I said, well, I'm Adventist and I'm Dutch. That's the cheapest man on earth right there. And I'm not buying 2 pairs of shoes, so I buy, what do you buy? I buy a 10.5 and I never wear them. And those who have tried said, I'm going to try that, Shawn. I'm going to try not wearing shoes. That you will never go back. Preachers, you will never, ever go back. People ask, where do you find the stories that you tell, like the ones last night? It's my advice to you that if you're going into evangelism, that you try to read as much as you can. And read good quality history. Read ancient history. You'll start to get a sense. Doesn't matter who wrote the book. An atheist can write the book, and you'll start to get a sense that the hand of God has been at work from the very beginning. And so I try to read 2 history texts a week, and it's a habit I've been keeping up for 20-some years. But I'll go back. I can't remember exactly where I've culled all those stories. Some from personal experience, some from volumes that I know where they are on my shelf. So preachers, I'll look those up when I eventually get back home, and I send those off to Elder Altermat. Was that a saxophone? I'm not going to sing. Really quickly, you should have a handout. If you don't, raise your hand and let somebody get that to you. We're going to have a bit of a classroom session. You're going to feel like you're back in grade school for a little bit. Let me read you this text this morning, and then we'll pray, and then we'll get to the business in hand. Listen to this. I didn't warn the translator we were going to go into this text, but it's Matthew 16, verse 13. This is curious. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Verse 15. He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Now listen to verse 17. This is important. Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." God gets there first. You don't convert people. By the time you enter the picture, you're the last one there. God has woken their hearts to the truth. They may not understand it in all of its clarity, but that's why you show up, to help them understand what it is that they're learning and invite them into God's church. Even with Peter, Jesus said, "It wasn't some human teacher that showed you who I was. It was my Father in heaven." And that will be the case with everybody you study with. God gets there first every single time. I'm hoping that we'll demonstrate that in our next few meetings together. Tomorrow morning, we will open the Bible and look at a remarkable story, a number of stories and a number of texts that will illustrate this. I grew up in a Calvinist home. Some of you who may not know what Calvinists are, we are taught that God chooses people ahead of time to be lost or saved against their will. It's just divided up because God is perfectly merciful and God is perfectly just, and so He divides up the human race and takes one portion to display His mercy with and another portion to display His justice on, and you don't have any choice in the matter. I didn't like it one bit growing up, and I would ask the preacher as a little boy, "Well, how do I know I'm in the right group?" He said, "Well, if you're worried about it, you probably are." Well, probably wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to know. So in that camp, you've got people saying God does everything and decides ahead of time who's going where. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got the group of the Arminians who say, well, it's all up to man. Man makes the decision, God accepts you, and it's kind of all human-based. The truth in Scripture appears to lie somewhere in the middle. God doesn't choose people against their will. We get a choice. But John Wesley probably solved that tension best of all of the theologians historically, and I can see a lot. We have Wesleyan influence in our background as Seventh-day Adventists, Methodist, Ellen White Methodist, and a lot of what she writes, as we'll see tomorrow, kind of shows that the truth is somewhere in the middle. Do we have a choice? Yes, we do. But does God take the first step? Yes, He does. He wakes up the heart and makes it interested in spiritual things and then gives you the choice to respond or reject it. That tells me something. You cannot make people interested in spiritual things. I'm going to show that to you biblically tomorrow morning. It's impossible. Your job is to go and find those that are becoming interested in spiritual things because God is waking the heart up. We're going to look at an amazing chapter from the book Gospel Workers this morning in the brief time that we've got. And I know that I said I'm a one-point preacher, but we're going to have 21 points this morning. 21, I think. So let's pray and then let's get to it. Father in heaven, I want to give you praise and glory for a brand new day. It's exciting to wake up and know that this day belongs to the Creator of all. That it is your day and that you've blessed us with it. That we have another day of life where we can commune with the one true Creator God. Not because we're worthy, but because Jesus is worthy and you've invited us back into your family. And so we want to offer our hearts to you in service this morning. We want to respond to your love. We want to spend our moments with Christ. Forgive my sins. Give me the ability to think clearly this morning, for I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let's see if I can think clearly this morning. I'm cranky in the mornings. My wife and kids avoid me up before 10 a.m. I have tried my entire life to become a morning person, because when I joined the Adventist church, I saw all these dear saints who loved getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for prayer, and they seemed like the nicest Christians, and so I tried. And now I get up every morning right around sometime between 3 and 4. Because I've never slept through the night in my entire life. I'm a chronic insomniac. I literally do not remember ever sleeping through the whole night. And so I get up early every morning, and you would think that as the years go by, I would become a morning person. Oh, no. No. This is cranky Shawn this morning. Are you ready? I mean, this is as cranky as I get, frankly, because every day's pretty good when you know you're on your way to the kingdom. Amen? Yeah. Although I've got to say that as the time goes by, things hurt more in the morning. Amen? Last night I got out of bed to go see a man about a horse, and I kicked the corner of the bed with my pinky toe on my left foot. Yeah, I know, right? That's how you know that you've got a relationship with Christ, when nice things come out of your mouth. You know, I actually said something nice. Oh, that hurt. It's a miracle how God changes us. We're going to blend. This is going to be a little bit through. Have you got your sheet? Are you ready to go? Can you see it? All right. This is a chapter. I'm on my way into a campaign in the city of Seattle here shortly. I think we open in about 6 weeks at the Puyallup Fairgrounds. I spend a lot of time in this chapter every time I prepare for a campaign. I never get tired of reading this, and I'm hoping that you'll put it somewhere where you can pull it out every time you're about to give a Bible study and read through it too. It is remarkable, the content that is in here. Let me get my remote control too, and I'm going to try and multitask and put the points on the screen as we go. In a dream, it begins, given me September 29, 1886. I was walking with a large company. What kind of company? Large company, who were looking for berries. There were many young men and women in the company who were to help in gathering the fruit. Notice what it says in those first two sentences. We're going to be stopping a lot as we go through this passage. Let me see if this will... For some reason, that's not firing. There it goes. How many people? It's a large company, many young men and women. God intends for many people to be in the work. I have noticed a pattern over the years is that when a minority of the church is interested in winning souls, it doesn't go very well. And we've got a consumer culture in North America where we expect the professionals to do the work while we cheer them on. That is not the New Testament pattern, not even remotely. A good pastor makes themselves redundant. If you notice the biblical pattern, Paul would pull into town, spend a year or 18 months with the congregation, and then he would leave. Why? Because the congregation knew what to do from then on. It's time for us to stop treating the pastor like he's the leading center in the game. The pastor is your coach, and a healthy church means that if the pastor were to pack up and leave one day, you would barely notice he was gone except that you loved your pastor. It's all hands on deck. If you are in the church, you are a soul winner. That's what you signed up for. I believe it's in the book Desire of Ages somewhere. You know, I'm really good at quoting from that book, Ellen White says. I never remember the page number, but it's somewhere in there where she said, if you are in the family of God, you are to lead people to Jesus Christ. Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs to get up front and preach. Although I would encourage you that if you have never done it, don't say no until you've tried it. If I can do it, anybody can do this. But if that doesn't happen to be your thing, God has called you onto the stage of the great drama of the universe for a reason, and you are there to lead men and women to Christ. It is a large company. We seemed to be, she writes, in a city, for there was very little vacant ground. But around the city there were open fields, beautiful groves, and cultivated gardens. A large wagon laden with provisions for our company went before us. I want you to pay attention to that. That indicates to me that if it is a large wagon that is full of provisions that God intends for His evangelistic work to be well resourced. Often we get to the subject of soul winning and evangelism and we kind of tack it onto the church budget almost as an afterthought. And then we wonder why it didn't go well. I'm here to tell you this morning that if you follow the counsel we have been given, it always goes well without exception. I remember a little church. They decided they were going to have an evangelistic campaign. They called in an evangelist to come and hold a meeting, and he was going to start the meetings on Friday night. So on Thursday night, the church got together and held an organizational meeting, their first one. Well, if people are coming, We better have some Bibles for them. Do we have any Bibles? Someone ran to the church basement and found an assortment of tattered old Bibles dating back to, well, I'm sure Ellen White had them. They were old and tattered. No two of them matched. Different versions of the Bible. They pulled them out, all beat up and dusty, and said, we'll give those to people. And who's going to be here to greet people? They picked a few people, and the next night they wondered why nobody came. And then they held another meeting saying, see, evangelism doesn't work. I don't do evangelism in a city unless we've had 2 years of groundwork to get ready for opening night. Because that is a celebration of what God has already done if you do it right. The real work takes place before and after, and the campaign ought to be a celebration. When I was pastoring churches, much to the chagrin of some people, I used to take the church board agenda and I would put opening prayer number 1, number 2, evangelism, and then we would get on to the treasurer's report and the minutes and all that. Why? I believe that the only reason we are here is to lead men and women to Jesus Christ. And if you put that number 1 on the agenda, it's amazing how all the departmental reports dovetail into your evangelistic plans. Suddenly the pathfinders are saying, hey, here's what we could do to contribute to that. And the deacons are saying, here's what we could do to contribute to that. Try it out. Suggest it. Put evangelism first, and then God puts the results first. That's the way that it works. God is waiting for us to fill the wagon with provisions. It also tells you if the large wagon is laden with provisions that you're going to be at it for a while. It's not a once-in-a-while thing. It's a lifetime of this is what we're supposed to be doing. And honestly, I can't understand why we'd want to do anything else with our churches besides leading men and women to Christ. I mean, you can sign up to go to nominating committee and building committee, and don't get me wrong, those things have to happen. But if that's what we did as a ministry, if that's all that ministry was, I'm not in anymore. I want to see people come to Jesus Christ. That's why we're here. Paragraph 2. I'm going to run out of time, aren't I? How much time do I have? I'm supposed to end by lunch. All right, we better keep going. Soon the wagon halted, and the party scattered in every direction to look for fruit. Around the wagon were both high and low bushes bearing large, beautiful whortleberries. I do have something I want to ask Sister White when we eventually meet her in the kingdom. And I've asked this question for 20 years, but what in the world is a whortleberry? I haven't got it. And some people have tried, Pastor. It's kind of like a blueberry, but nobody's really sure. I think there's an entry in Wikipedia. But I don't know what a whortleberry is. I picture it kind of like a blueberry or a Saskatoon. You don't have Saskatoons down here, but we have them in Canada. It's kind of like a sour little blueberry, and it makes really good jam. All right. Bearing large, beautiful whortleberries. But the company were all looking too far away to see them. I want you to pay attention to that statement. We've just been told that the fruit is usually nearby. We spend great effort and great expense going vast distances on mission trips, which are important. It's good. I like going on those mission trips too. But the fruit isn't at a great distance. You have been placed in your community for a reason. God trusted you with that community, and the fruit is nearby. And you will be surprised by how much there is. Start by looking close to you, not far away. I began to gather the fruit nearby. See, she says it again. But very carefully. Now this is important. Very carefully for fear of picking green berries, which were so mingled with the ripe fruit, I could only pick 1 or 2 berries from a cluster. You're not picking everything. Some of the fruit is not ripe. What does that tell you? God gets there first. Your job is to find out who is ripening. Don't pick the ones that aren't ripe. So often we think that if we're just right and we argue with people a little bit more, that the fruit will suddenly ripen and they will fall off the bush into the church. It's not true. Our job is not to ripen the fruit. Our job is to find the ripe fruit. And if you work that way, you never run out of fruit. It's impossible to burn territory if you work like this, picking what's ripe at the moment. God gets there first. Your job is to find those who are ripe. Paragraph 3. Some of the nice large berries had fallen to the ground and were half consumed by worms and insects. Next point, some of the fruit is overripe. Now, that's a tragedy. Oh, thought I, if this field had only been entered before, all this precious fruit might have been saved. But it is too late now. I will, however, pick these from the ground to see if there is any good in them. Even if the whole berry is spoiled, I can at least show the brethren what they might have found if it had not been too late. So what are we doing? Some of the fruit's not ripe. Some of the fruit is overripe. We're working in this window. All of humanity is passing through a window of opportunity, and they ripen at a given point in their life. The Spirit of God is laboring with everybody, and our job is to watch for those who are passing into this window, now ripe, overripe. You don't want to let it go to overripe. That's a lifetime of work, observing your community intently, watching for those who are passing into the window of opportunity. And I guarantee you, she's going to point it out, I guarantee if you work this way, you never, ever run out of interest. So the next point, there is a brief opportunity available. So you need to hatch plans that hit your community on a cyclical basis, over and over and over. And you feel like, well, we're going over the same bushes again. Yes, you are. But those of you who have picked berries, I did a lot of that in high school to make a little bit of money. You go over the strawberry patch, you pick what's ripe, you come back to the same bushes the next day, more is ripe, and you come back to the same bushes the next day, more is ripe. That's exactly the way it works with your community. You can go over the same neighborhood again and again and again. So you plan it on a 6-month cycle or an annual cycle, and you will always find the next few berries that are ripe. All right, where are we? Just then, 2 or 3 of the party came sauntering around where I was. They were chatting and seemed to be much occupied with each other's company. Seeing me, they said, "We have looked everywhere and can find no fruit." They looked with astonishment at the quantity I had. I said, "There are more to be gathered from these bushes." Here's the point. There's always more fruit than you think there is. If you cultivate the habit of observing your community intently, meeting as many people as you can, befriending them and spending time in their presence, you will never, ever run out of Bible study interests. I promise you. Cultivate the habit, and there's always more fruit than you think. They began picking, but soon stopped, saying, "It is not fair for us to pick here. You found this spot, and the fruit is yours." But I replied, "That makes no difference. Gather wherever you can find anything. This is God's field, and these are His berries. It is your privilege to pick them." God gets all the credit. They're His Bible studies. It's His fruit. He's the one ripening them. You have the privilege of being there when they come to Christ. It's an incredible privilege, and I'm convinced that God does that for our benefit and education and growth as Christians. I'll show that to you tomorrow morning, biblically. That God involves us for our own good. Doesn't particularly need us, but it's His fruit. Now notice what these people are saying, "But you found the fruit. It's your fruit." She said, no, get busy. There's so much everybody needs to be picking. I've noticed something curious over the years. I often do multi-church meetings in large centers. There'll be 20 churches. And the churches that are most concerned about, all right, these people are joining our church, baptize the fewest. The people who say, look, it doesn't matter where they go to church, we want them in the kingdom, you pick a church that suits you, almost always baptize the most. Why? God honors generosity. They're His berries. The important thing is that they end up at home. It's not about numbers, folks. It's not about how many people you can swell your church with. And the most generous churches grow the fastest every single time. All right, let's keep going. Is this making sense to you? All right. Soon I seemed to be alone again. Oh. Every little while I heard talking and laughing at the wagon. I called out to those who were there, "What are you doing?" They answered, "We could not find any berries. And as we were tired and hungry, we thought we would come to the wagon and take a lunch. After we've rested a while, we'll go out again." "But," I said, "you have brought in nothing as yet. You are eating up all our supplies without giving us more." Oh, this one hurts. But apparently it's possible to be a spiritual freeloader. Well, that's a spiritual freeloader. Well, if you're forever asking yourself, well, why should I go to church? What did I get out of it? You might be a spiritual freeloader. We're not there to see what we can get out of it. We're there to put into the kingdom of God and give graciously of our time, effort, and talent because Jesus did so much to save us. We're here for one reason. Read your New Testament. You will find no other task that Jesus gave the church other than to bring men and women to Jesus Christ. That's it. That's it. That's why we get together. That's why our talents are mixed together, why we're all needed. You could be a spiritual freelancer. She writes, I cannot eat now. There is too much fruit to be picked. You did not, I love this line, you did not find it because you did not look close enough, not observing intently enough. It does not hang on the outside of the bushes. You must search for it. Our job is to search. That's what makes it fun. I love the hunt. You know, we often go out and knock on doors and you get 30 doors slammed in your face. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm horrible at door knocking. My daughter's a literature evangelist. She lives for it. Me, I just about throw up. I ring the doorbell and I stand there getting ready to throw up. I get so scared, so nervous at I don't mind admitting that to you. I'd rather put out some advertising and fill an auditorium with 2,000 angry heathens. That's fun. Because they came on of their own free will. But, we're focused the wrong way. Well, 20 people said no. You do understand, based on John chapter 6, that most of Jesus' audience walked away from him. The majority did. And if it happened to the Son of God, why do you think it won't happen to us? That doesn't indicate failure at all. You were not told to do this if it worked to your pleasure. You were told to do this no matter what. Noah preached for 120 years and got no converts outside his family. And you know full well that he would have been unfaithful had he refused to preach because the results were so small. It involves searching. That's the fun. It's not the 30 who said no. It's that one who says yes that makes my day. And you'll find them. They're there. But it involves searching. God has made this fun. People say, well, it's risky. We don't know what's going to happen. That's fun. How much fun would evangelism be if you knew exactly what was going to happen every time you did it? That's not fun. Fun is the searching. True, she writes, you cannot pick it by handfuls. That's important. But by looking carefully among the green bushes, you will find very choice fruit. I teach this everywhere I go. You're not going to find 100 people, everybody. If we were to all go out into this community today, I pray we would each find 100 good interests. And people are interested right now. We'll get anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 people asking for Bible study if we target a community for a week. But every one of us finds one or two. So you need to look at the community and your church this way. Everybody is going out into the community with their gifts and they're turning on their faucet. And their faucet might only drip. Drip, drip, drip. I found one interest in 18 months. Drip, drip, drip. But if you've got 100 people who all turn their faucets on and they're all dripping, what happens if you have 100 faucets dripping? The church begins to flood. You don't find it by the handfuls. People say, oh, we only got a few that time. Yes, I know. That's why you're going to do it again in 6 months. No, we need to understand that we've been told the way it's going to be. And we need to stop getting discouraged when we find out it's actually work. It's called the work for a reason. My small pail was soon full of berries, and I took them to the wagon. Said I, this is the nicest fruit I have ever picked. Don't you feel that way about every new believer that comes through the doors of your church? And I gathered it nearby. There it is again, third time she says it. Well, you have wearied yourselves by searching at a distance without success. We make it so complicated. Start nearby. Start with your street. Get to know those people. Go find out who lives next door. We don't do enough of that in this day and age. Nobody knows their neighbors anymore. Just go meet them. Spend time listening to them. God's going to show you someone on your street who is ready to come home. Then came, unless you live way out in the country and you're the only one on your street, then you do have to go back into town. Then all came to see the fruit. They said, these are high bush berries, firm and good. Listen to this. We did not think we could find anything on the high bushes, so we hunted for low bush berries only and found but few of these. Never, ever rule out a group of people. Don't do it. People say, well, you can't get the educated, sort of the PhD class. Yes, you can. I watch them get baptized all the time. People say, you can't get anybody from this group. Yes, you can. I watch them get baptized every time. They're young, they're old, they're blue collar, they're white collar, they're native born, they're immigrant. They're human beings. That's what we're looking for. And people have the same problems no matter what strata of society they come from. At the very core of every human being, they ask the same questions. What does my life mean? We all ask it. Don't rule out any group of people. Go get to know them and listen carefully. Then I said, will you take care of these berries and then go with me to look for more fruit on the high bushes? This one breaks my heart. But they had made no preparation to care for the fruit. There were dishes and sacks in abundance, but they had been used to hold food. I became tired of waiting and finally asked, "Did you not come to gather fruit? Then why are you not prepared to take care of it? Plan right away for a harvest. Get ready for people to show up. Spend as much time talking about what's going to happen after the Bible study, after the evangelistic meeting, as you did getting ready for the evangelistic meeting. Otherwise, you weren't really exercising faith. Faith says, I better get ready for all the new people who are coming to church, and God always answers that prayer. Get ready for them. Think about what happens over the next 12 months after they join the church. How are you going to make soul winners out of those people? Don't stick them in a corner and wait for them to mature. Your new people are your best soul winners, hands down. I always take the brand new converts and put them out there giving Bible studies in the first week. How can you do that, Pastor? They're going to make mistakes. I know. Yes, they are. But they're going to lead people to Jesus left, right, and center. And if we think that because we've been around the church for 20, 30, 40 years, we don't make mistakes, come on. You don't think your angel watching you give a Bible study is going, oh no. That's not true. Where am I? I lost my place. One responded, Sister White, this is it here, right here. We did not really expect to find any fruit where there were so many houses. I mean, how do you not expect to find fruit where all the people are? But anyhow, you get the point. Low expectations mean low results, period. People say evangelism doesn't work. Do you know why it doesn't work? Because you said it wouldn't. That's the bottom line. It doesn't work if you don't believe it does. But if you go in with faith saying, Lord, this is what you asked us to do, we're going to do it, and we're praying for a great harvest, and we know it's going to happen, God answers that prayer and you get a harvest. We need to learn to practice positive expectation and start talking like God knew what He was doing when He gave us this assignment. Low expectations guarantees low results. You don't think you're going to find anything? You never will, because you're not even looking anymore. High expectations yields high results. I remember a city that we went to, and we divided the city up between Bible. Oh, I've got 6 minutes left, and we got to finish this. Translator's going to kill me because we're going to go really, really quick in a minute. We're in a city. We had, I don't know, several hundred people coming to a meeting, 1,000. We divided it up. And one lady, Tracy, she said, I'll visit this neighborhood. She came back the next day. We had a meeting. Well, how many people did you find? She said, well, I visited 50 homes. I've got 48 people interested in baptism. And everyone else said, well, you must have the good territory because we got nothing. She said, well, I'll tell you what, I feel bad if I got the good territory. Why don't we trade tomorrow? So we traded, and Tracy came back the next day. She said, I visited 50 homes. I got 46 interested in baptism. And the people who went to her old territory said, we got nothing. If you don't believe it'll work, it never, ever does. Start exercising a little faith. Tomorrow morning I'll show you that's why God has you doing this anyway, to teach you faith. Oh yeah, and so much going on. We thought we would bring enough to eat and would enjoy the recreation if we did not gather any fruit. I answered, I cannot understand this kind of work. I shall go to the bushes again at once. The day is already far spent. Soon the night will be here in which we can gather no fruit. Some went with me, but others remained by the wagon to eat. Successful soul winners learn to cultivate a sense of urgency. People are passing through that window of opportunity every single day, and so you don't waste time. You need to keep at the work and understand that the window of opportunity we currently have is not going to last forever. We know that prophetically. So get out there and look. In one place, a little company had collected and were busily talking about something in which they seemed much interested. I drew near and found that a little child in a woman's arms had attracted their attention. I said, you have but a little time and might better work while you can. The attention of many was attracted by a young man and a young woman who were running a race to the wagon. On reaching it, they were so tired they had to sit down and rest. Others had also thrown themselves down on the grass to rest. There are a million good things that the church could be involved in. But if any one of those activities are distracting you from the one thing Jesus gave us to do, to lead men and women to Christ, then you are wearying yourselves on everything except the one thing that Jesus told you to do. We make ourselves tired But I've got to tell you, soul winning doesn't wear you out. Soul winning renews your faith. Soul winning gives you energy. Thus the day wore on, and very little was accomplished. At last I said, Brethren, you call this an unsuccessful expedition. If this is the way you work, I do not wonder at your lack of success. Your success or failure depends upon the way you take hold of the work. Good soul winning is organized, it is planned, it is intentional. You eat, sleep, and breathe it, you lay plans. If corporations ran their business the way we run evangelism some days, America would be broke. I guess America's broke anyway, but you kind of get my point. Where am I? There are berries here, for I have found them. Some of you have been searching the low bushes in vain. Others have found a few berries, but the high bushes have been passed by simply because you did not expect to find fruit on them. She makes that point again. You see that the fruit which I have gathered is large and ripe. In a little while, other berries will ripen, and we can go over the bushes again. Do you see it? The window of opportunity. You cannot burn the territory if you focus on what's ripe, and you wait for the green berries to ripen in another 6 months. We talk about evangelists burning territory. It happens because we try to twist arms and we focus on what's not ripe. Focus on what's ripe. You cannot burn territory, period. You'll always be welcome in your community if you focus on what's ripe. This is the way which I was taught to gather fruit. If you had searched near the wagon, you might have found fruit as well as I. The lesson that you have this day given to those who are just learning how to do this kind of work will be copied by them. This is important. Young people don't want to be patronized. Young people don't want to be entertained. Young people want to do something meaningful with their life for the kingdom of God. Young people have starry-eyed idealism that people like the communists know how to tap into, but somehow we don't. Put your young people to work. Put them in charge of evangelism. They will blow your mind with how much they get done. I had a program once. I was teaching young people for a year how to put together a campaign, mentoring them one-on-one, about 20 of them. One kid came back to me and said, I just held a meeting. It went pretty good. I said, how did it go? He said, well, so far I've baptized 112. Is that good? I said, you'll get there. You know, that's a pretty good start. Didn't dare tell. I baptized 6 my first time out. I felt like a schmuck. Anyway. All right. Where are we? The Lord has placed these fruit-bearing bushes right in the middle of these thickly settled places, and He expects you to find them. God brings people almost to the door of the church. He could bring them right in, and every so often He does. I've had people walk into church saying, a voice told me to walk in here this morning. It happens. But most of them know God brings them almost to the door of the church, and then He gives you the joy of heading out the door and finding out who they are and bringing them through the door for your own good. And He expects us to do that. All of heaven's sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for you to go out and find the people that are basically gathered outside the door of your church. But you have been altogether too much engaged in eating and amusing yourselves. You did not come to the field with an earnest determination to find fruit. You must hereafter work with more zeal and earnestness and with an altogether different object in view, or your labors will never be successful. Your perspective on this matters. Practice positive expectation. Learn to live faith. Faith is not what you know in your head. Faith is the knowledge that you act on. Saying, all right, if this is true, Lord, I'm stepping out in faith and I'm going to do this thing. Faith is sticking with it even on the hard days. And when you have that perspective, God begins to bless. By working in the right way, you will teach the younger workers that such matters in eating and recreation are of minor importance. It has been hard work to bring the wagon of supplies to the ground, but you have thought more of the supplies than of the fruit you ought to carry home. You should be diligent first to pick the berries nearest you, see, she says it again, then search for those further away. After that, you can return, work nearby again. Thus you'll be successful. The ripe ones live on your street. We don't see them because we haven't cultivated Paul's habit of observing people intently. You need to know people. You do not win people by being right. We talked about that last night. You need to be right. Don't get me wrong. You need to be clear on what the Bible teaches. But it's not being right that wins people to Jesus. God wins people to Jesus. Your job is to invite them home. Father in heaven, as we close this meeting this morning, we ask again that you would give us the eyes of heaven to begin looking at our neighbors and our relatives and the people on our street the way you see them. Show us clearly. Let us listen to them. Lord, have them say the things that make it obvious to us that they're ready to come home, and we will exercise courage and invite them. We want to see the harvest, so teach us to find even one in the months ahead. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Did I get close to finishing on time?
You're 15 minutes early.
I thought I had to be done at 9:30.
9:45.
Oh, I've got 15 minutes?
You do?
Can I keep going?
You may. Please do.
All right. Was that useful to you? I was rushing because I thought I was done. But a preacher who finds out he's got more time, woohoo! Let's talk about visiting people just for a few minutes, because we handled this wrong. We think we have to be right, and we think we have to apply pressure to get a decision, and that's what I did in the beginning. I really did. A lot of pressure, and I wondered why I lost most of them. I've discovered something. The less pressure you put on people, the more decisions you get. Some of you know that's the truth. Some of you have done this for a while. Let me talk about how I visit people. This is in the context, well, here, this is an important quote. Sorry, translators, I didn't realize I was doing this segment. Look at the translation booth. It's like something from the Inquisition. It's a little black box. They have to sit inside there, and I bet it's hot after an hour in there. I know, because I did a radio show in a little booth like that for 50 hours one time, and by the time I was done, I was literally in there in my swim trunks because I couldn't take it. I'm a Canadian. Anything over 60 degrees is miserable. Anything over 60 degrees makes me recant my position on purgatory. By personal labor, listen to this, this is so important. By personal labor, reach the people where they are. Become acquainted with them. Why? Because you're hunting for ripe berries. This work cannot be done by proxy. Then she says something that hurts my feelings as a preacher. Sermons from the pulpit might do it. Cannot do it. Information comes from the pulpit, but evangelism happens in the home. 95% of the decisions I see for Christ do not happen in the altar call. Oh yeah, they come forward in the altar call, amazing things happen. But I know who's coming forward in the altar call before I ever make it. Do you know why? Because I've been in their home twice that week and I know who's under conviction. Visiting, teaching the Scriptures in families, this is the work of an evangelist. And this work is to be united with preaching. If it is omitted, here's the number one reason we fail in evangelism. If it is omitted, the preaching will be, to a great extent, a what? You can have the finest preacher on earth, but if you're not in those homes getting to know people, it's not going to work. It wasn't just the sermons that led people to Jesus. Jesus spent time with the multitudes. They trusted Him, and they knew Him. If half the time now spent in preaching were given to house labor, favorable results would be seen. Half the time. I preached, 30 hours in a campaign. If 15 hours were spent visiting, I would have much better results. We don't have time for the Sir Galahad syndrome. It's fun, but I don't have time. The evaluation visit. Here's how this works. If I'm running a Bible school, or if I'm giving Bible studies, or if we're having an evangelistic campaign, it doesn't really matter what the context is, I'll drop by your house in the first week of that campaign. And it freaks a lot of people out, especially in the year 2017. So let me teach you how to drop by a house and not freak people out. It's really, really easy. You want to get by the house just to figure out who these people are and establish how ripe the berry is. You're basically trying to assess the level of interest, because not everyone who comes to the door is at the same level. Some are just ripening, some are almost overripe, but you want to find out who they are so you can prioritize. I do that in a meeting. When I hold a campaign, we meet the first Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. And from 8 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night, we read every single name out loud of everybody that came through the doors. It takes all day because it's often 2,000 to 3,000 names. And we want to know, who are these people? Who are they? Does anybody know Mike Smith? Does anybody know Sarah Jones? Does anybody know this person? Because if someone knows them, I can assess, oh, they've had Bible studies. They're already attending church. Nobody knows them. We better get by that house and figure out who they are. And I drop by. It is so easy. It is so easy to put them at ease. They'll freak out the moment they see you. Like, oh, what are you doing at my house? Aren't you suspicious when somebody knocks on your door? Remember, like 50 years ago, someone knocks on your door, so, ooh, company's over. Now someone knocks on your door, you're locking the door and you're hiding, right? It's like, you wonder, what are they doing there? So you put their minds at ease. You tell them the 3 things they want to know when someone's at the door. What are the 3 things everybody wants to know when there's someone at the door? Who are you? What do you want? And how long until you go away? That's what they want to know. So I'll hold the handbill from my meeting or whatever we're working on, the Bible school, something that... Because it's amazing, if I'm standing on the platform, I show up at the door, somehow you look different, they don't know who you are. But even if you've been giving them Bible studies at the church, you hold the copy of the Bible study in your hand so they identify you with that experience immediately. I say, hey, I'm Shawn. I just dropped by really quickly. I can't come in at all. I got to run right away. But I just wanted you to know how much I've been appreciating that you came out to the Bible study. Just want to remind you, we're back on Thursday night. And then you start to walk away. That's it. People go, that's an evangelistic visit? Yes, it is. 30 seconds. And they're not freaked out. Why do I do that? Because the next time you come by, they're not scared at all. Oh, that was easy last time. He went away in 30 seconds. This will be 30 seconds. It won't be 30 seconds next time, but I've got them at ease. There's one other thing I do, though. Hey, I'm Shawn. I can't come in. I just want to drop by, say, oh, I'm so glad you're involved in our study, and I want to remind you we're back on Tuesday night. Our subject is, okay, I got to go. And then as I'm walking away, I pull a Columbo. Some of you know. Oh, hey, by the way, how did you find out about this study? How did you find out about the meetings? That's important information. Oh, well, hey, my grandmother was a Seventh-day Adventist. Wow, that's important to know. Oh, I saw a brochure in the mail. I'm just assessing. Well, I'm hoping it's a blessing to you. Pause. Because they're going to indicate their level of interest in the next thing they say. And that's all you need to know. Well, great, we'll see you Thursday night. And you walk away. That's it. That's pretty easy, right? You can do that. That's not threatening at all. You don't want to threaten people. Ever box them into a corner. All right, we talked about that. We talked about, this one. When I'm there, though, I'm as snoopy as all get out. After I'm done with this class, you will never let me in your home because I'm the guy who goes through your medicine chest. I don't really, but it's close. You want to look around without obviously being snoopy. They open the door. If you can catch a glimpse of the pictures on the wall in their living room, just glance really quickly. Do you know why? People put what's most important to them on the walls of their house. They've got a 4 by 6 foot framed picture of a kitty cat, blue ribbon on the corner. I suddenly love cats. I hate cats. I hate them with a passion. They snuck on the ark. I'm convinced of it. How they got on the ark, I don't know. And the cat lovers, you can chase me down. You're not going to teach me to love cats. I can't stand them. But I'm not going to say that in that house now, am I? If they've got a bookcase, I look at that too. Right? Even if it's got 2 books on it, I'll walk up and say, ooh, you're quite a reader. You know, something like that. And just a quick glance. Why? A person's bookcase is a map of their intellectual development. Shows you what they think and what they believe. If I see 20 books on the Shrine of Fatima and the Visions of Mary, I know what we're going to have to study down the road. Just a quick glance, you know. I see all kinds of books on communicating with the dead. I'm being serious. You need to glance at this stuff. Don't be snoopy. Don't barge in. I also want to find out in every community how private people are. And you know your own community well, but when I'm traveling, I do an exercise at church. I go to the potluck, and I start talking to people. And as I'm talking to them, I take 1 step closer to them, and then another step closer to them. I got 10? Oh, good. Another step closer to them, another step closer to them, and I'm trying to gauge how close can I get till they back up. Because the closer you can get before they back up, the less private that culture is. The more intimate it is, the faster you can build a friendship. If you're 3 feet away and they take a step back, you're going to have to work harder to build rapport in that community. I have backed people up all the way around the potluck table. It is amazing. They just take a step back. But pay attention, because various cultures and various cities have a different level of trust. And the closer you can get to somebody before they back down, I mean, don't be obnoxious and brush your teeth if you're going to do this one. But you want to pay attention. Listen more than you talk, especially in the beginning. Now, second visits. We'll do this very quickly. The reason you keep visiting, I'll drop by once or twice a week. You want to deepen your friendship. You want to make sure they understand what they're learning. And then you want to encourage them to do something about it. And you can do that without ever threatening people or backing them into a corner. It's really, really simple. You just need to cultivate what evangelists call clear and set. Every evangelist in the room knows exactly what I mean by clear and set. We'll just skip this one. This is important. This is all very important. All right, here. The non-threatening question is your very best friend. And this is a skill Adventists really need to cultivate. You can ask questions without boxing people into the corner. Often we don't work that way. We'll say, hey, the Sabbath is the truth. Going to keep it? And the minute they say no, your conversation's over and you can never come back. It's over. It's done. You've killed it. Don't threaten people. There are 3 questions you need to ask people every time. And it's over everything that you study. It's the Sabbath, the baptism. I'm like a broken record. I go back to people's homes and ask the same 3 questions over and over and over about everything that they've learned. First question, was that new to you? Have you ever heard anything like this before? That's not threatening. That's non-threatening. They either have heard it or they haven't, and they don't feel pinned down. I've never heard anything like that before. Oh, yeah, I know all about the Sabbath. My dad was an Adventist preacher. Oh, now we know what we've got on the line. We've got somebody who needs a little special attention. But it doesn't box them in. Was it new to you? Right? Or have you ever heard anything like that before? That's non-threatening. The next question I'll ask, was that clear to you from the Bible? Or did that make sense to you as we studied it in the Bible? I always point them back to the Bible because they really don't care about your opinion. Honestly, they don't. If you give people an hour-long lecture on what you believe, you're going to lose them. You'll lose them. They don't care what you believe. They care what God thinks. That's what's going to speak to them. You refer them back. Hey, as we studied that the seventh day, Saturday is the Sabbath of the Lord, did that make good sense to you from the Bible? And it did or it didn't. And then they'll raise any questions they've got or maybe some objections or hesitations that they've got at that point. And there's a science to dealing with that as well. But is it clear? Did that make sense to you? And the third question is, are you going to do it? No. Third question is, have you given this any thought? Pause. That's it. Have you given this any thought? Hey, you've done this talk about the Sabbath. Hey, Mike, so have you been thinking about this? He knows what you're asking, but you haven't pinned him down. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can make a change like that. Well, I know, Mike, it can be difficult. I'll tell you what, though. I know a group that's celebrating on Sabbath. Why don't you come as my special guest just once? I'll pick you up, and you tell me what you think of it. You assess it for me. See, it's completely non-threatening. You always give them the opportunity to say no, because Jesus gave people the opportunity to say no. I can wrap this up. Here we go. One other question. Here's some examples of how to use it. But was it new? Was it clear? Have you given this some thought? And one last question. Can you think of any good reason not to take this step with Jesus? Do you know why that's such a good question? There's no such thing as a good reason not to follow Jesus. They'll never, ever come up with one. But non-threatening. If tensions are going up, red flags are raising, go away, come back another day. Do not argue. You will lose the person. Some people will make a decision in one day, some people in 6 months. That's why you're waiting for the fruit to ripen. Can you think of any good reason? Now, folks, have you ever heard this before? Was that new to some of you? Yeah? Did that make good sense to you as we were discussing it? Have you already given some thought to how you might be able to use that in a home? It's that simple. Don't box people in, you'll lose them. Sometimes fishermen have to put a little slack in the line once in a while and tighten it up again another day. You're looking for ripeness. You're not looking to be right. Father, thank you for this meeting, and we give you the praise and glory for the people you're working with in our community. And again, we ask that you give us the ability to see them clearly. For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Am I done for real this time? All right.